actually begin by talking about Singapore, your country, a country that you, as UN ambassador and a key diplomat, represented and defended for decades. Singapore made the leap to economic modernization many, many decades ago. It has had ample opportunity to develop democracy, but it has not done so.
Well,
why?
I would say that Singapore is one of the most misunderstood countries in the world, because it has succeeded by defying Western perceptions. It's constantly vilified in the Western media. Tomorrow, if
you just said that in the end all societies will move toward democracy. Singapore has not moved toward democracy.
That's exactly what I'm going to tell you. You sent President Jimmy Carter in with 100,000 election observers to watch the next elections. Guess what? The government's going to win the elections. It wins the elections every time because the Singaporeans have had the fastest increase in the standard of living of any society in human history. Now, that's a very large claim to make. If, consider where I came from. When I was in Singapore, my per capita income was less than Ghana's. I didn't have a flush toilet in my house, right? I had to live on welfare. Today, you look at what Singapore has accomplished. The people of Singapore support the government that they have. That's what democracy is all about. And that's what Singapore has.
But we don't know what the people of Singapore would choose to do if they had a real political choice. We don't know that because your laws on defamation, on freedom of expression, on the media, make it impossible for there to be a meaningful, realistic opposition.
I'm not sure whether you've been to Singapore recently, but in the minute you get into your car, you can turn on BBC 24 hours a day. The minute you get into any hotel room and the house in Singapore, you get access to a few hundred cable channels. Singapore has got more broadband access than any society in the world except possibly South Korea. There's no disruption or flow of information in Singapore at all. You see, what you're describing is precisely a distortion that exists.
I think it's important for people to know the reality. The leader of the very small opposition party in Singapore has been financially ruined. He has been declared bankrupt because when he chose to criticize Lee Kuan Yew and other political leaders, he was sued for defamation. Human Rights Watch, in its latest report for 2008, says that in Singapore, draconian defamation laws are wielded as a political weapon. Now, is this the Asian model that you believe is going to dominate the 21st century?
The Asian model that's going to win over in the long run, as I mentioned, is for all societies to become democratic, for middle classes to emerge, for things to change and grow and grow.
Those are easy words for you to say eventually democracy will. But in Singapore, and this is important because it gets to the heart of your case, in Singapore, yes, you've been fantastically successful economically. Yes, by and large, your people appear to be happy with the prosperity they enjoy. But what you have not done is translate that stability into genuine political freedom.
Do you mind if I give you a very tough response? Because you ask me very tough questions. Because your tough questions imply that the gold standard on human rights today exists in the West, and the rest of the world has got to rise up and conform to the gold standard the West set. If you had asked me 10 years ago that, there have been two great leaps in human rights in human history. First was the abolition of slavery. Second was the abolition of torture. If you had asked me 10 years ago that the first modern developed country to reintroduce torture would be the great beacon of freedom and democracy, which is the United States of America, I would have said no way, because America stands for freedom and democracy. It would never allow torture to come back. Guess what? The first modern developed country to reintroduce torture is the United States of America. Now consider this possibility. Let me answer your question. Let me answer your question, because between implementing torture and defamation laws, there's 1,000 miles that separates them.